Okay. Good. Sounds working. Being here, you have demonstrated so much commitment to this webinar. So I thank you for that. With all of the tech difficulties, all of the glitches going out with reminder emails. Oh my goodness. So thank you for showing up and still being willing to be part of this experience after so much tech difficulty with automation. All right. I have got a presentation in store for you today, and I have a lot of ground that I would like to cover. But before we get started, I would really just like to connect you and see where you're at, to get a gauge of where you are. What is it that you are hoping to get out of this webinar? And what are you struggling with most right now in regards to throat chakra dynamics? It's a lot of questions, but feel free to answer any or all. And I will be checking the chat box throughout this call. So what are you struggling with? What can I support you with most today? If you have something in mind, I'll do my best to touch on it. Okay, I'm just going to scroll through comments here. So I'm noticing just some comments around voice, how you're communicating, how you're speaking. Connecting in with truth and communication, and possibly some blocks. Okay, great. All right. Okay, thank you so much for sharing. And I welcome you to connect with other participants in the webinar throughout the call. And then, of course, if you have a question for me to answer, you can go ahead and post that in the Q&A, and I will do my best to respond to all questions if possible by the end. I'm planning to leave time for throat chakra assessments, and we'll just get started. So let's get going. Okay. I'll share my screen here. And if you can just let me know, actually, one moment before I share that. Ah. Okay, here we go. Okay, can you see my screen? Just make sure that you can see my screen. Okay, all right, here we go. It is time. It is time, my friends, to explore the dynamics of the throat chakra. So let's get started. Okay, so I'd asked you what you're hoping to get out of the webinar and what are you struggling with most at the throat chakra level, and feel free to just continue to add to the chat anything that is surfacing for you as we go through this material. Okay, so what about me? Well, hi everybody, I'm Alexis. I'm the founder of Chakredy. I train and certify practitioners in the Chakredy teachings, and I have sought out energetic connections in health and healing for my entire life. And like you, most likely, I have sensed so much and experienced so much energetically that I really struggled to make sense of. And I did not grow up with the language or the context to articulate my observations and experiences. And so they got lumped into one very overwhelming, bombarding wall of energetic noise. And Chakredy has taught me over the years how to make sense of it for me, how to organize it, how to place it and articulate, develop a language around this energetic information and intuitive insights so that I can share that with other people. We all have the ability and are intuitive. The challenge becomes releasing the stories and the conditioning and all of the interferences and layers that prevent us from accessing that inherent wisdom and information. So, most importantly, on Throat Chakra webinar day, I want you to know that I'm invested in self-evident truths and the body as a truth detector. And during times of such extreme censorship, one of the most important things to know about me is that I am a skeptic and a free thinker, and I am very invested in all of the people in my community, supporting this community with and truth and to help expand your sense of personal freedom in doing this. So that is my intention on this today, is to help you break down and make sense of some of the subtleties and dynamics at the throat chakra level so that you can expand your sense of personal freedom through activating and really embodying truth for you. Okay, so let's talk about the chakras. If you're here, maybe you have vast knowledge of the chakras, maybe you are new to the chakras. I like to work with the chakras as a framework, an amazing way to structure and help organize information. That's why I always go back to working with the energy centers. These energy centers are fluid and they fluctuate, and they are a point of energetic exchange between the physical and the layers of the energy body. So they bridge the seen with the unseen. And we can gather a lot of chakra-specific intuitive information when we are dialed into these energy centers and what they have to offer. So I also want to talk about what an intuitive indicator is from my perspective before we get started. And I always preface everything I do by saying I can only share from my perspective. So this is the way in which this information comes through for me, the way in which it resonates for me, and I encourage you to connect with what resonates for you. And that if anything, if this ignites anything in you, I hope it is to get you excited and curious about the information that you've accessed to at all times, and that you get out there, and out there I mean into it, out there in the sense that you are gathering your own information, that you're gathering your own intuitive data, doing your own energetic research to make sense of your experiences. So what is an intuitive indicator? Well, it's a specific sensation or impression we can place at a particular energy center. So it's a particular sensation or intuitive impression that is associated with one of the chakras. And of course, today we will be working with the throat chakra. So the Chakredy framework associates specific intuitive indicators with each chakra to organize information. Okay, let's talk about the throat. And I'm getting some feedback that the sound quality, and I hope that with throttled bandwidth, which is probably a metaphor on many levels, I hope that this comes through in the clearest way possible. And if not, then we'll just make the best of it. So I hope that you can hear me clearly on the other side, wherever you are in the world, that this is reaching you with the most, with the best clarity as possible. Okay, throat chakra time. So the throat chakra, this energy center governs so much. Before we even look at what this energy center governs, just look at the physical anatomy of this part of the body. This is the most narrow point of the body. And so there's something to that. The throat is housed between the heart and the third eye, which tend to be quite expensive in their natural state for men. And there can almost be a compression that happens at the throat chakra when different aspects of the throat do not have energy flowing in and out. Things can get really stuck and stagnant, and it can become like a pressure cooker in there. So I don't know if that's something that you may be experiencing now, but if it is, it's information to work with. So the throat chakra it's governing a lot. It is governing communication, expression, voice, so speaking and listening. Voice in terms of, just speaking up, speaking out, speaking your truth. These are things that are commonly connected in with the throat chakra, and they are absolutely part of the throat chakra energy. However, there are also so many other aspects to this energy center that also are made up of listening and more of the reactivity aspect of the throat. So I just want to mention that because there is a tendency to associate this, talking all the time with the throat chakra. So there is that, and there's a lot more. The throat also houses the thyroid and the tonsils. And if we're just looking at this general area, we're looking at the teeth, the jaw, there's a lot that's going on here, and a lot that can manifest on a physical level for so many reasons, but tension, and also taking that to the back of the back body, the neck, and the base of the skull. Okay, this is the point of truth, language, and it's a portal where you are taking in breath, where you're taking in life and energy, and there's so much going on here. And every chakra is intuitive. So if you've been following my work for a while, this is something that you've heard me say many times, that every chakra is intuitive. And when we can identify a primary intuitive chakra, or a dominant discernment center, as I like to call it, this can be really helpful to get specific around developing your intuition. So focusing on your natural can help you bring energy flow and openness to other areas that may be a little bit more challenging to work with. And I always like to work with the shadow elements. I'll be talking about these different presentations and reflexes at the throat chakra level, and they are associated with more of that shadow imbalanced state. And I've found over time that it's much easier typically to connect with things that create the body, that create a charge, and that can feel like a negative charge in the body. Something that creates that level of discomfort can bring your attention, your awareness to it. And so that is what we are working with today. Okay, how am I doing on sound? And if you want to, if you haven't already, you can I have a quiz on Chakredy.com where you can go and find out which energy center is your primary intuitive chakra according to that quiz. Of course, I encourage you to connect with what you sense it is first. And if you would like to have some direction around it, go ahead and take that quiz if you haven't. It's fun. Okay. All right, here we are, throat chakra intuition. So every energy center is intuitive. The throat chakra is actually the energy center that helped me see that every center is intuitive, because it speaks in ways that aren't necessarily or typically associated with intuition, and it's revealing so much. So it is super sensitive, and when you test as being throat chakra dominant or have this as kind of a primary point in your energy where you are perceiving the world through and perceiving a lot of energetic information through, it can be really frustrating because you may feel really transparent at this part of your body and energy. And when you are transparent energetically, that can feel like everyone can just see through you. And this can be revealed through voice fluctuations. It can be revealed through shyness, and also even turning red is one example of how the throat chakra may be showing some type of intuitive indicator. So they are things that can show themselves to the surface for the outside world to see, which is why it can be so uncomfortable. And there can be a lot of vulnerability associated with this energy center for many reasons. And one being that this is the point in which you're bringing language, and you are expressing your inner world to the outer world through the vehicle of the voice. So there is a lot of vulnerability associated with that. And I joke about it, but it's true that this is oftentimes one of the most intimidating energy centers to work with. It's like, okay, let's do the work around all of these other centers first, and then maybe we'll circle back to the throat chakra, because it's uncomfortable. It can be really uncomfortable. Think about how uncomfortable it can be to meet conflict with your truth and expressing yourself and saying hard things and all of this stuff that can be just stuff that we don't want to do. And so it's an invitation. The throat chakra provides such an incredible invitation to do a lot of just healing work. And my intention is to help make this healing work as fun and magical as possible. Okay, so the throat is communicating to you what it is that you are picking up on, both internally and externally, what you may be experiencing inside yourself and what you may be experiencing in your environment. Okay, and some of the sensations, some of what could be grouped in with intuitive indicators would be turning red, lump stutter, shyness, coughing, throat flare or swollen throat, as I'm talking, swollen throat, transparency, voice changes, unable to speak clearly, tight jaw, teeth grinding. So these are just some things that can be associated with throat chakra information and throat chakra intuition. Now, I'm just going to give a quick review of how I like to organize intuitive information, and that is using the anatomical planes, so frontal, transverse, and sagittal planes. Each plane communicates energetic relationships. So the directions that are associated with these planes communicate different things in the energy. And then we can take sensations and apply them to directional aspects. And that may sound like a lot, which it can be, but it's going to help organize information. And I will do my best to help make sense of this so that you come away from this webinar with clarity around how you can organize these sensations. Okay. So I'm just going to speak briefly to the frontal plane and the transverse plane, because those are the directional aspects that I'm going to talk about in this webinar. So the frontal plane divides the body into front and back, And the front, we can look at balanced and imbalanced states at each of these directional aspects. So the first directional aspect being the front, and projection would be the more imbalanced state of energy. And I'm going to talk about projection in a minute. So I'll be doing some hand signs if you see me here in the screen. And this is what projection looks like at the front. So the balanced state of front of the energy body would be in. So action feels different from projection. And there's so much that we can uncover about that alone, but I'm going to focus on the imbalanced energies because those are the ones that create a greater sense of discomfort and the ones that we can get really dialed into to inform ourselves more of what our throat chakra is telling us. So back is associated with retraction as its imbalanced state. So we got front and back. Then we have the transverse plane, which separates the body into top and bottom. And the top is associated with more of a disconnect. And I'll be talking about the flare response, which is associated with this top directional aspect. And then the bottom is associated with suppression. Okay, so back to, we're going to dive into reflex number 1, into projection. So when you project your energy, you may experience a sensation of diving forward, of projecting at the front of your energy body. This can also be experienced as energy being sucked out of you. That can there can be some overlap there, but that your energy is primarily dominating in the front of you, as opposed to being centered in your body and in your energy system. It's dominating at the front. So this can manifest as a pulling at the front of the body or the pulling at a specific energy center. And which energy center are we focusing on today? The throat chakra. And this can also manifest as an intense fixation of mental energy. So taking that and getting specific about the throat chakra, we can look at throat chakra projection and take the specific intuitive indicator. So this is the specific sensation or intuitive impression that we're associating with the front of the throat chakra. I know this is getting specific, but it's going to help. So that, from my lens, is mirroring. And mirroring has been part of the throat chakra mini series that I released over the past couple of weeks. And mirroring is something that happens where you project from the front of the throat, and there are lots of nuanced energetic dynamics that can happen in mirroring. Essentially, and I would like to ask you, what do you associate with mirroring on an energetic level before I go into this further? When you hear that word, what do you connect that with? Okay, matching, yes. Matching other people, being in tune with your audience, sensing what the other person needs, connecting in conversation, not being authentic, reflection. Okay, these are all great. Mimic, great, awesome, yes. So all of that. So, and I'm going to be looking at this from more of a shadow perspective. So let's do that. When I connect in with mirroring, and I'm looking at this from the lens of projection, what can happen when you are mirroring someone is that there can be an altering of how you present yourself and how you speak in order to match another person. So this is a sensitivity at the throat. And this can be done to anticipate. There's an anticipation energy. So you project out from the throat, you're anticipating how something might resonate with another person. So how do you say this? What do you say? And then based on that anticipation, you then inform yourself of how you're going to show up, how you're going to speak, what you're going to say. And there is definitely an element of connection that can happen through this ability of mirroring, where you can get really dialed into how someone might receive what you share, and kind of that whole knowing your audience and how to establish connection, how to reach someone. And these can all be beneficial things. The challenge becomes that when you project out from your energy, when you project your energy out from your body, your energy is leaving your body to then go and dig around in somebody else's stuff. And then what happens on energy is, as you come back to yourself to bring that information back to you, you can also be bringing back other stuff into your body. So it can get the energetic dynamic, that energetic exchange that happens can get really clouded. And it can then create more complications. To sound dramatic, you could be putting yourself at energetic risk for projecting into somebody else to then base the way that you're going to show up, speak, respond on that person's energy. So there is this quality of sensitivity and sophistication of mirroring, because you are able to have that ability to anticipate how somebody might receive you. However, it can oftentimes be connected in with an energy that is connected with a lower energy center. So I didn't say that very succinctly, but it can be typically tied in with fear, insecurity, self-doubt. There can be another energy from the origin of mirroring that is initiating that mirroring projection. So, and this can also, mirroring can translate as impulsive decision making, and just being concerned with your appearance and what other people might think of you and what will people say. So this is a subtlety, and this is big, because you essentially, when you are mirroring, and mirroring by this definition, not in the sense, not just the embodiment of all of the positive qualities of mirroring, it's more of that energetic susceptibility of projecting your energy out and then coming into contact with whatever's out there and basing your response accordingly. So what I want to support you with is helping you understand these dynamics so that you create the space and the buffer to shift that pattern, if that's a pattern that you're getting stuck in, because you inhibit yourself, you inhibit your self-expression, your authenticity when you mirror another person. Okay, yay, it resonates. Awesome. And thank you so much, everybody, for sharing and articulating what you have. And please be sure to put your questions in the chat box if I don't answer them as I'm going through this material. Okay, so reflex number 2, retraction. So this is working with the back of the energy body, and retraction is going to be that imbalanced state. It's a pulling back in your own energy, a containment of your energy, and a withholding and a tightening in from all directions. And typically this is more pronounced at the back of the energy body. So when we get specific about retraction at the throat chakra, how does that manifest? Well, guess how it manifests? As not speaking. So shutting down your voice is a manifestation of the back of the throat chakra imbalance, stressed, the shadow expression of it. And this can be, here's this little sketch of you guarding your truth and experiencing fear of rejection. So what are you doing? You're retracting and pulling in at the back of this energy center. So this can manifest as intense retraction at the throat and mouth, shyness, fear of visibility, tendency to hide, intense fear of speaking in front of groups, slow moving when it comes to putting yourself out there, guarding your truth, fear of rejection, often perceived as a good listener when really you embody a sense of holding back. So that can be the mask that others perceive you to be such a good listener, which I'm sure that you are a very good listener. However, are you sacrificing what is true for you out of fear of expressing yourself? So these are, there's a lot of depth here. And I know that we're going deep fast because there's so much here. And it is, like I said, a very vulnerable part of the energy and body to work with. And yet, let's do it. Let's do it. The time is now. Thank you for sharing that that's you, Julie. And yes, this is big. So just connecting in with that and noticing the sensation for yourself around this. When do you find yourself doing this? Are there certain triggers for you, certain people, certain environments, certain topics? You know, where do you find yourself retracting at the throat, not speaking? So this can be total shutdown where you just have no voice and you can't speak at all. This can be, well, we'll get into stifling more with the bottom aspect, but this is really like intense retraction, pullback at the throat. Okay. So, and yes, being a good listener can be a double-edged sword, and it can just be so intimidating. Okay. So this is retraction. Okay, moving right along into the flare response or the flare reflex. Okay, so a flare I'm going to associate with the top of the energy, and we're looking at the top of the throat chakra. What would that suggest? This can feel like a swelling sensation, heat at a specific part of the body. And because we're looking at the throat, I know with this little sketch here, there's a lot going on. This is from one of my trainings, my humble sketch to communicate trigger energy. But really, I want you to pay attention to this throat flare and all the energy that's just firing off of that center. So a particular part of the body or entire body holds a reactive charge. So at the throat, you know, there's some serious charge going on. And this one can be easy to connect with because you may really experience the heat build up at this part of your body. And that can show you that you're experiencing this energetic dynamic. So when we take the throat chakra flare and we apply it directly to, or when we take the flare and we apply it to the throat chakra, that can manifest as being tongue-tied and experiencing voice fluctuations. And why do I choose that specifically? Well, this flaring energy, or this kind of this heightened upper energy that can be really chaotic at the throat, there's a lot going on, and the energy has a hard time finding a sense of ease. And so this can lead to interrupting out of nervousness, being a loud talker when anxious, being indecisive, teetering from side to side at the throat. So it's kind of you can't really commit, you can't really make a decision. There's this back and forth teeter, and there's a lot of chaos and discomfort. A tendency to overshare, TMI, and again, out of, you know, anxiety, and exaggerating often, dramatic expression, and even experiencing imposter syndrome or the fear of being all. There's just a very chaotic energy to this. Who connects in with this? Who connects in with this presentation? So think about how this may surface for you. Where do you find yourself shifting into this space? Okay, this resonates, and it's showing up for some people at work, and maybe with family or in family members. So it's really fascinating when you can start to observe dynamics for what they are. It puts you in a place of observation where you're able to hang back more in your energy. And when you're able to hang back, you're less likely to engage or react. I think of engagement as a positive way of showing up and getting engaged with these dynamics. So giving them your attention and being involved, engaged, but not reacting. Okay. So moving into the fourth reflex, or suppression. So suppression, which is going to be associated with this bottom directional aspect. So there's like a shoving down or pushing down of your own energy that wants to be expressed. And this can manifest as stifling. It can almost feel suffocating, especially at the throat chakra level. And there can be an absence of energy here too, a void-like sensation. There can be a lot of density associated with this type of reflex and suppressing, where the energy just gets so bogged down. And if we take suppression and then we apply it to the throat chakra, this, an intuitive indicator that we can associate with this is a tight jaw or biting your tongue. So this can translate as being a low talker, not revealing a lot about yourself, or being super private, clearing the throat without being able to completely move energy up and out, jaw clenching at night, tightness at jaw and neck, struggling with open communication, avoiding hard conversations, difficulty expressing and discussing emotion, can't articulate your personal truths in the presence of people who challenge your position. Okay. All right, so this is resonating some. This is so uncomfortable. All of these dynamics, all of these energetic presentations can be so uncomfortable to be in. And the challenge becomes, how invested are you in shifting the pattern? Because rather than having to bring in a million different skills to shift a pattern, really what I've observed over the years of teaching and training other practitioners is that there's something so powerful around getting dialed in, getting specific, identifying a dynamic, and then bringing your direct awareness to that pattern, to that dynamic, to noticing when something happens, when you find yourself in this throat chakra suppression space, that you pay attention to that, and that you use that area of your body, that you bring your awareness to the throat chakra, and you simply observe what's happening. I'm so excited about the throat chakra, I can't even talk. That you bring your awareness to this, and as you do that, it just can shift the energy immediately. And how powerful is that? So that is what I want to offer you today, is that you have incredible power in the way that you can manage your energy and how you can approach your own healing process when you bring your awareness to specific dynamics. And it's exciting. It's exciting because you have the ability to shift these patterns whereas if you approach something from the space of just blanket throat chakra work and healing the throat chakra, it can be more challenging to even, where do you begin? What does that look like? And so there is something powerful about getting specific. And I find the directional aspects and connecting in with specific intuitive indicators to be very helpful in that way. Before I go into, I want to share, well, there's so much to share. I want to save time for assessments. I want to make sure I answer all questions. Anything coming through for you around what we've covered so far? Any requests? Okay, I am going to start answering questions in the Q&A. Okay, before I do that, just because, and CJ, if you can post your question in the Q&A box, then I'll make sure that I can respond to it in order. I'm gonna start with Jay. How to get thoughts into words? Wow, that is a profound question. How to get thoughts into words? For me, I feel that forming thoughts into words can be, I like to shift that into connecting in with sensation. I find for myself that it's much easier to get lost in the head and get lost in the thought. So if you can bring it into sensation and how might that thought translate into a way that you're experiencing something in your body, then I find that that can be a point to then form language around and articulate. And that would be my way of approaching how to get thoughts into words. That's essentially what all of this information, that's how this information has come through, is through all of these subtleties and all of these sensations that I've experienced over the years, and working with how to get really specific and articulate them. And then I can bring in the thoughts and the thoughts that are connected in with all of those different things. So I hope that that offers something, but that's definitely, there's a lot just in that simple question. Alexios, how does a lack of interest from others and what we have to say associate with retraction? Others see us as great listeners, yes, but then they do not want to hear what we have to share. I just feel that in my heart immediately. And I was feeling so much heaviness in my heart before this webinar. And typically that's not where I was before. And typically I open myself up to receiving information for, the collective and the community that will be on the call. And I'm just getting that sensation from maybe from some of you, that it just feels like it's a lot of heaviness at the heart level. Okay. So let me sit with this question for a moment. So one thing that stands out to me when I think about the lack of interest from others and what we have to say and how that's associated with retraction is that, when you're in dialogue or when you're engaging with another person, there is this engagement, there's an interaction. And so if there is not an interest energetically, and there's not almost like a reaching out energetically to you from the other person, then that feels like it can play into this dynamic of retraction. It's like you're not being invited forward. You're not actually, your energy is not being invited to meet the other persons because the person is not actually interested in engaging or interested in what you might have to share. And that can be a really hard space to be in. And when somebody doesn't want to hear what you have to share, and this is something this leads into something else that I'd like to talk about with regards to the throat chakra. And that is that there is oftentimes this huge pressure that is associated with the throat chakra. You got to say everything you think. You got to show up. You got to share everything that you feel and experience in order to be in alignment at the throat chakra level. And when we're looking at all of the different dynamics, which are so many, and we're looking at how to show up in an authentic way, you can show up in an authentic way without, screaming out to the world everything it is that you think and everything that it is that you feel. Of course, there is a dynamic here that you want to be aware of, which is, where is that balance between showing up authentically and sharing in a way where you're not just, you're not speaking to people where, nobody's going to be receptive to what you have to say. You're not just saying things for the sake of saying them when you know that there is no receptivity to what you have to share. That you can find a place in yourself where you're so clear in your own truth, that you're not seeking out that external validation, and that you are able to reach people authentically with where they are. And it's so, there's so many layers to that, but it is a thread that I want to bring in of just, you don't have this, liberating yourself through the throat chakra does not necessarily translate into saying everything you think and feel to every person. And how can you access that truth and stay so solid and clear in it for yourself without having to have that reflected by every person that you come into contact with? And in the same breath, acknowledging and encouraging you to find those other people who are invested in what you have to say and what you have to share, and want to know you and know all of those parts of who you are. And there's a lot. Okay. I hope that helps to answer your question. Amanda, perhaps a bit about projection. Why do we pick up other people's lower energy, and why is this so dangerous? I know I made it sound, that was me being dramatic, huh? That's a presentation, me being dramatic and saying it's dangerous. So the way that I perceive this is that when you do project out, when your energy does leave your body and it goes scrambling around to try to get an idea, you're essentially trying to read somebody else. So when you read somebody else's energy, that is very different from perceiving somebody's energy. When you read somebody's energy, you are projecting into their energy and you are trying to gather intel and then inform yourself based on that information how you're going to react, how you're going to respond, what you're going to say. And the reason why I perceive that as being energetically harmful is that, number one, it's going to be invasive to the other person. So whether they're aware that that is happening or not, you may see a response in their energy. They may shut down. They may, just kind of be like a little uncomfortable. But it can be dangerous in the sense that you're crossing over. It's like you're crossing a threshold and you're putting yourself in somebody else's field. And when you do that, and I think of it like kind of tentacles reaching out, when you do that, you're going to come into contact with other energy. And because you are more an advanced concept, because you are putting your tentacles out there and digging around in somebody else's energy, because that originates from a place of something else. It's not from a place of, when I connect in with that, it is, and through the years of connecting in with these dynamics, that does not come for me from a place of centeredness, groundedness, clear boundaries, truth. It comes from something else. It comes from some type of fear of rejection, some type of insecurity, something. There's something else there that's driving that dynamic to mirror and to project. And so when you do that, when the origin is associated with something that is more fear-based, you are making yourself vulnerable to that same vibration in another person and bringing that energy back into your body. And I just went into a very advanced concept here to explain that. But I hope that helps to make sense of why I perceive that to be, it's like it's not energetic hygiene. It's not going to support energetic clarity for you if that's a practice. And it's not going to be sustainable. You will have a very hard time managing your personal energy if that's what you do. And, we do this because we don't know that we're doing it. We typically do this because we don't grow up and we're not taught the ways in which to manage our energy. And so we have to learn that ourselves. And I hope that today helps to illuminate some of the ways in which you can do that, because you can apply these ways of connecting with reflexes and energy management to all of the energy centers. Okay, so I hope that answers your question. Allie, is it possible for all these planes to apply to you in different circumstances? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we are navigating the world through the lens of all of these energy centers, and circumstances change, and, you know, everything changes around us. And so what I found is that the more clear I get on basing my experience off of internal reference points, the more I'm able to navigate turbulent terrain without being thrown out of myself, without being completely derailed, without needing days of recovery, that I can actually bounce back fairly quickly when I come into contact with something that's uncomfortable or come into contact with something that's jarring, that I have those internal reference points strong and clear, and can base my energy off of what's going on in myself to then show up in the world and navigate that in the most fluid way possible. And not that there's any perfection associated with that. Just ask my family. Okay, so let's see. CJ, can the throat carry a charge like a wound from having been shut down or silenced in traumatic situations, even if a person might find it easy to speak in most situations? Yeah, absolutely. With these triggers, typically there's something in you when you experience that charge. It can be like a charge reigniting from something that's been with you from some type of wound or some type of trauma, some type of something at a different point in time. And so I perceive a charge almost like your energy is highlighting something to you. It's illuminating something for you. And so if you can be aware of that and you can meet that charge with awareness, then it helps to dissipate that charge. And the more that we are unaware and we're just reacting and we're just projecting and we're getting stuck in these cycles, then the harder it is to be operating from a place that is sustainable and grounded and clear. So yes. Kristen, do you observe a direct connection between second and fifth chakra? Oh, do I? Yes, indeed. So much so that there is a part of that dedicated in the Chakredy training just to sacral throat chakra connection. Absolutely. There's so much there, especially when it comes to expressing emotions. And yeah, there's so much. So I definitely encourage you to explore that connection if you feel like it's calling you. Mary, how to speak a personal truth when the physical anxiety prevents me from speaking, also fear of rejection involved. Oh man, I know that this is tough. And the way that I would approach this or encourage you to approach this is to really be as, and it sounds so simple, and I know it's not simple to do, but to be as engaged and curious about your anxiety as possible, that you're able to really anchor into more of an observer in yourself so that you can observe the anxiety, and that it creates like it creates a separation almost between you and the anxiety, so that you can really see it and you can be present with it and you can allow it to shift in whatever way it wants to. So I encourage getting in there and really being with whatever is surfacing for you. And sometimes that can create even more intensified discomfort because you are bringing your attention to something. But typically what I've observed with that is when you get in there and you get really engaged and you get really curious about what's going on, that emotion or that energy may heighten and intensify. And then typically after it peaks, it's going to shift. And so how can you approach that from that place of observation? And then from there, see how does that connect in with speaking your truth? And then I think it's just a matter of just going for it. And there's so much, this is how this ties in with the sacral chakra too, that there is a lot connected in with trust and with courage, and the courage to speak and the courage to listen. And it's a lot. So I know it's a lot. Okay, so let's see, Louisa, I'd like to know how to be free of these restrictions to the throat, how to overcome fear or whatever emotion stirs up, that interested with me speaking my truth to stop that blockage, interference while in the middle of the fear emotion. And I think this ties in with Mary's question that just, and I realize that because there can be so much discomfort that's created. Here is my not so fun response. This is, if I've got any students on the call, you've heard me say this so many times and I'm sure you're sick of it, but here's my response. That getting engaged and getting involved in your own inner experience and healing and work is work. There is effort that you put in, attention that you put in, and that you develop clarity around these dynamics and how you respond based on repetition. So there is that elbow grease of putting in effort into and being invested in observing how you respond to things, and that there can be a tendency to just want to like come in with the antidote, come in with and fix and resolve and find that solution for it. And this just goes back to experience in myself, and then also experience in working with other practitioners, that being with that discomfort in itself can help shift the energy. So when you're willing to really get in there in the dark with something that is scary and something that is uncomfortable, that in itself helps to shift the energy. When we deny, avoid, suppress, project, bypass, when we go around it, it can become louder and louder and louder. And so, and I'm not saying that that's what you're suggesting in your question, just that that's something that I've noticed over time, that can grow to get your attention. And so how can you get in there, and how can you access that discomfort and the fear and the emotions that may just create anxiety and stress for you that are related to speaking your truth, and just be with them and just be kind to yourself and see what are they showing you. So I hope that helps. But just even being willing to look at them shifts the dynamic, because sometimes we're not aware that we are actually trying, that energetically we may be saying, I want to heal this, but on an energetic level, we're like, but I don't want to actually go there because it's way too scary. And I'll do all the things. And this is where I go back to throat chakra training, Chakredy training, where it's like, let's do all of the other things except say the thing that's really hard to say. We'll do all the other stuff, but I really don't want to actually have to say that one thing to that one person. Okay, CJ, wondering if those diagnosed with Hashimoto's might be throat chakra dominant. I learned that my thyroid hormone levels fluctuate with how much I feel that my voice is being heard. Absolutely, absolutely. The physical and the energetic are interwoven and connected, and so they're working with these layers and addressing physical and energetic, and beginning to uncouple things that may be so intertwined that it's hard to discern, what's an energetic thing, what's a physical thing. But I do work with a lot of women that come to Chakredy who have had thyroid specific challenges. So I think that there's something big there for sure. And Anonymous, I think I'm a solar plexus dominant per your quiz, and yet I have a big time throat chakra issue, thyroid disease, clenching jaw, teeth, and a huge number of other things that you've discussed so far. But in going through this webinar, the feeling in my gut, solar plexus, is so strong right now. I don't even know where to begin with all of this because I feel surrounded by those who do not listen to my voice or value my voice, or they throw up a big fuss, but ultimately I know they very much value my voice. What are the first steps I can start with to help me get in more balance and regain my voice in a way that feels good under such circumstances? Maybe you're answering it right now. Yeah, I mean, there's so much here. And I just want to offer my compassion to everyone on the call today who is struggling with their ability to speak clearly, to articulate what they're experiencing, to maybe being receptive to others and what others have to share, and being engaged as a listener when it feels really hard. That these are all such valid challenges, and I just I just feel that so much in my heart for everyone today, that it's a lot. And so if throat chakra is resonating with you and you're also seeing a lot with solar plexus, I would just encourage you to practice being in your own energy and yourself, and really invested in how you're showing up from a place of authenticity with regards to both of those energy centers, and of course all energy centers and parts of yourself, but with those as a starting point and focus, and see how that may shift dynamics. And when we shift to the internal as that point of reference, then the external doesn't have the same ability to dominate our experience. And because it is so easy to get sucked into dynamics that may trigger you and maybe make you feel helpless, or maybe make you feel rage or grief or whatever those energies are, that when you do have that strong awareness within yourself, you can navigate those from a place of just being more still and present. Okay, I know that I am going over, and did I make it through? Did I make it through the questions? Oh goodness. Okay, I'm gonna do my best. More showed up. Okay. Louisa, last question. Okay, I also have a very strong engagement energy that I constantly feel between my heart and throat. This is connected to my previous question. It's as if I'm afraid, for instance, I'll feel it first in my heart, and then this tug or pull from the heart to throat. And with that, often my throat will get phlegmy or feel stuck, like I can't talk, or get hot or red, or all of the above. Yes, yes. So there are, you know, we're looking at the throat chakra kind of in isolation, but then you've also got all of these different connections, like the throat being connected to the sacral chakra and the throat being connected to the heart. And so starting to notice, well, where might a point of origin be for the way your energy gets triggered, and then, you know, what happens. So maybe that point is, it could be the heart, and then there's a manifestation at the throat. And so all of this just becomes more information to help you really develop your self-awareness. Okay, let's see. And just gonna make sure. How do I stop saying embarrassing things I later wish I hadn't said? So I would say, Sydney, that's a good question. So because there can be that chaotic energy that kind of initiates that whole, like the TMI response, if you give yourself the space and the buffer and pull your energy back, then you can be more present with whoever you're engaging with, so that you create the space to, and instead of it just being like something that comes out of you or gets pulled out of you or starts barreling out of you, if you bring your awareness back, it's going to give you that split second, or, you know, full 2 seconds or minute or whatever it is, to really be with what are you going to share, so that you're bringing that awareness and observation to what's forming word-wise in you before you speak. And that is different from censoring, which I know I haven't gone into in this video. There's so much here. Okay, and then last question, Katrina, is there any link with having tonsils and adenoids removed when young? I would say that there absolutely can be here to explore with that physical connection, and I always encourage the exploration of physical and energetic with regards to surgeries, accidents, you know, injuries, things that have impacted different parts of the physical body and how that may be impacting the energy bodies. So yeah, absolutely. If you see a lot of throat chakra stuff showing up for you, even just looking back at that time in your life, you know, what was going on, sitting with any wisdom that comes through for you around, it could be any type of unresolved healing. So, okay. All right, I went through the Q&A. Thank you so much for all of your amazing questions. And I am going to shift into assessments. I'm going to go about 10 more minutes for assessments if you would like one. And I know that there's a lot in the chat box that I haven't had the chance to read through. If you would like an assessment, please put that in the box and I'm going to do my best to get to you. Okay, so hopefully you can hang with me for another so. I do want to let you know if you are interested in, so one of my visions for Chakredy is that I've been wanting so much to build out almost like a library of content, and I'm starting with the mirroring at the throat chakra as the first smaller program that I'm offering. And this is to take things that I've typically only shared in trainings and taught practitioners and taking those concepts and breaking them down into digestible chunks of information. And so that people can identify something that they struggle with and that there is a smaller program that is specific to that. So the first one that I'm offering like this is the throat chakra mirroring program after doing the mirroring series. And the program is available on this link here. It's chakredy.com /1-throat-chakra-mirroring. And I'm offering a coupon code Heal Your Throat 2020 because who doesn't need to work on healing at the throat chakra level? And that's a $30 off coupon. So the program is only $49 if that's something that is of interest to you. And I'm so excited to build this out. So there's that. And take the quiz if you think that would be fun. You can check that out at chakredy.com. And now it is time for assessments. So let's do that. I'm going to stop the screen share and okay, and okay, great. So you guys posted in the chat box if you want an assessment. Yes, okay. Christine, I'm gonna start with you and I'm gonna do my best. I'm gonna move through these pretty quickly. All right, so I do all of my assessments. I've got a throat chakra specific, can't really see, it's blue, pendulum here to do assessments today. And I am, let's see, what am I gonna look at? I am going to look at the directional aspect that is prioritizing for you. And then we'll go from there. Okay. So, and you may already be really clear on this. I offer this from a Chakredy lens. So this is the way in which the energy that I'm in communication with is revealing a priority. So that is what I'll be sharing. We'll see what Chakredy has to say. Okay, Christine. Okay, so throat chakra. Oh, I know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna pick a wheel aspect. Hang on a second, guys. Let's get a wheel aspect and then I'll share the wheel aspect in relationship to the direction. This is gonna be fun. Okay, so this This is from the Chakredy trainings, looking at the different wheel aspects. So there are different energies associated with the throat, of course, and I'll be sharing with you the one that prioritizes for you. Okay. All right, here we go. Christine. And I like to do this blind so that I'm not okay, so the energy of surrender is prioritizing in relationship to the back of the throat chakra. So how can you surrender and how can you do this at the back of the throat chakra? So that is associated more with listening and receptivity at the throat chakra level. And I'd love to know if that resonates with you. B. Baron. Communication is prioritizing for you in relationship to the third directional aspect, so the top of the throat chakra. So that's kind of where you may feel disconnected and also experience more of a chaotic sensation at the throat. Okay. Shante, am I pronouncing your name correctly? Shante. Okay. Connecting in with your energy. And it's like giving me a little teeter side to side. Okay. The energy of reveal. So the throat chakra, and what is it revealing to you, or how does reveal or revealing connect in with you as an aspect of the throat energy? And that is connecting in with the bottom directional aspect, so suppression. Ali, and please do share if there's something that surfaces for you or how this connects. Okay, validation is the aspect of the throat chakra that's surfacing for you, Ali, and that is in relationship to that's funny. I'm hearing all of the directional aspects, but the one that's prioritizing is the back. So that retraction reflex. Okay, Kristen. Expectations. Oh, wait. Well, maybe it's both. Demands. Expectations. It's going back and forth between the two. Demands and expectations. Okay, we'll go with both. And that is in relationship to the front of the throat chakra and projection. So would love to know how that makes sense for you. CJ, expression is surfacing for you in relationship to the top directional aspect, which can be that disconnect or even avoidance can be an energy, and that's what I'm hearing is avoidance. Okay, Mary. Choice is surfacing for you in relationship to the back of the throat chakra and retraction energy. Gail. Communication is surfacing in relationship to the bottom directional aspect and suppression. Kathy. Validation is surfacing for you in relationship to retraction at the back of the throat chakra. Okay, Christine, I did, let's see. Yeah, Christine, I had done your assessments. Let me punch in, I'll punch in the link for the program since that, and the coupon code since that was question as well. And let me see if I've got Sonia. Okay, I'll finish assessments and I'll punch in the link. Sonia. Okay, second aspect, communication surfacing for you. Lots of communication and expression. Communication surfacing in relationship to projection. And Sarah. Expectations is surfacing in relationship to the back and retraction. Dylan. Visibility is surfacing for you in relationship to, it's funny, it's like, which direction? The top directional aspect, so the flare reflex, or that which can shift into disconnect. Okay, and let's see if and Tina. Okay, Tina. Validation is surfacing for you in relationship to the front aspect and projection at the throat. Okay. Okay, great. I'm happy to hear some of this resonating. Let me pull up the link so that I can punch it in here if you are interested in going through the mirroring program, which is going to be just available online. It's going to be released on the 21st. So this is early registration discount, and I'll punch in the coupon code right now too. Okay, any other questions for me before I end today's call? Thank you so much, everyone, for your willingness to share, for your willingness to, ask questions and be visible. And I hope that this information helps to support you so that you can be clear in yourself. And as you are challenged or feel pulled out of yourself by anything that's going on around you, anything that is just creating a sense of disconnect, that you feel empowered to return back to yourself and really anchor into what you feel to be true in your body. Because turns out that your body is a barometer for truth. It's a truth detector. And when we can connect in with specific sensations and get really clear in ourselves about what resonates as truth, then we have the ability to be very discerning in ourselves and to stay aligned with our truth, even when we feel, and especially when we feel challenged. And so I hope that I welcome all of your questions, everything that you have to share. I've been very excited to see people engaged with the blog and asking questions, and I have lots more throat chakra content coming your way. I will also say, for those of you parents that are on the call, I'm going to be doing an energy camp, a virtual energy camp for kids and their parents. I'm creating something out of the desire to have something for my own child. And I'm saying that it's for ages 5 to 10 starting mid-June, but really, I think this will be for adults too. Who doesn't want to go to energy camp over the summer? So I'm hoping that can help to support children in their development of awareness and connecting them in with the power of sensation and just help them begin to articulate things from a young age around what it is that they're sensing. So that will be coming soon. Thank you so much. I'm really grateful for your vulnerability, sharing everything, and I look forward to connecting with you more going forward. And there's some questions about the coupon code. I'll punch that in one more time. And I'm just going to review